The Russian Ministry of Defense has released a muted and highly curated video allegedly showing the country's most senior military commander, General Valery Gerasimov, visiting troops in Russian-occupied areas of eastern Ukraine. The footage begins with Gerasimov boarding a helicopter, a familiar image meant to portray mobility and frontline engagement. The aircraft bears the Z symbol, an emblem that has become synonymous with Russia's war in Ukraine. For supporters in Moscow, it is framed as a mark of patriotism and resolve. For Kyiv and much of the world, it is seen as a symbol of aggression and occupation. We then see Gerasimov peering out the helicopter window, gazing toward what the ministry implies is contested Ukrainian territory. Yet, as is often the case, the images come with no verifiable geolocation, no accompanying sound, and no contextual detail. Independent outlets, including AFP, stress that they cannot confirm where or when these images were taken. This ambiguity is not accidental. For years, Russia has used curated imagery as a tool of propaganda, a way of projecting confidence while leaving space for doubt. The sequence continues with Gerasimov being greeted by uniformed officers at what is described as a military bunker in occupied Ukraine. Such images serve a dual purpose. To the domestic audience, they suggest a commander in full control visiting his men on the ground, showing personal leadership in a war that has now stretched into its third year. To the international stage, it seeks to reinforce Russia's message of permanence, that its senior leadership is not confined to offices in Moscow, but present in the battle itself. The video then cuts to scenes of Gerasimov addressing his officers, nodding to briefings, and examining military maps. The sound is muted, the words unheard, leaving only gestures, posture, and imagery. On the surface, it is a depiction of military order, a general at the center of planning, commanders delivering updates, screens glowing with tactical details. Yet the silence is telling. What matters is not the content of the reports, but the optics of Gerasimov's authority. This carefully timed release follows just days after Russia and Belarus concluded their Zapad 2025 military exercises, one of the largest joint drills of the year. The maneuvers included air forces, drones, missile units and infantry, exercises designed not only for military readiness, but also to send a strategic message to NATO and Ukraine. Russia remains capable, even under the pressure of sanctions, attrition and international isolation. For observers, the appearance of Gerasimov, whether real or staged, carries heavy symbolism. He has long been considered one of the architects of Russia's modern war doctrine, often referred to as the Gerasimov doctrine, which combines conventional combat, hybrid tactics, and information warfare. In Western capitals, his name is linked with strategies of disinformation, cyber operations, and the blending of political, economic, and military tools to destabilize opponents. To feature him here, silently reviewing maps in what is claimed to be eastern Ukraine, is to showcase not only a general but a doctrine of power projection. But this footage also revives questions about Russia's information practices. Where exactly was Gerasimov? Was this truly a frontline bunker in occupied Ukraine? Or was it a carefully staged location on Russian soil? Why mute the video? Why provide no corroborating evidence? The lack of transparency is not a flaw. It is a feature of Russia's communication strategy. Ambiguity creates room for speculation, fuels narratives, and distracts from battlefield realities. For Ukraine, however, the implications are stark. If indeed Gerasimov visited occupied territory, it underscores Russia's determination to embed itself further into the east, signaling long-term control and the integration of these regions into its military command structures. For Kyiv, fighting to maintain Western support, the footage is another reminder that beyond the artillery duels and drone strikes, the struggle is also one of political messaging and legitimacy. For Russia's domestic audience, meanwhile, Gerasimov's alleged presence near the front lines helps counter negative narratives of poor leadership. The Russian military has faced setbacks, losses, and internal rifts, none more dramatic than the Wagner mutiny in 2023, when Yevgeny Prigozhin's mercenary forces briefly marched on Moscow. Gerasimov himself was a target of Wagner's fury, accused of incompetence and betrayal. Yet his survival within the military hierarchy and his reappearance in curated footage now serves as proof, at least for Kremlin loyalists, that he remains indispensable. The video shows Gerasimov surrounded by officers pointing at maps, listening to muted reports. It is a performance of command. In wars past, from Syria to Chechnya, Russia's Ministry of Defense has relied on similar staged material, blending truth with theatre to shape perception. The silence of the current video only heightens its theatrical quality. No words are necessary when the images are designed to tell a story of authority and confidence. But behind the optics lies a grimmer reality. The war in Ukraine has stretched resources, inflicted heavy casualties, and drawn condemnation from much of the world. Russia's strategy now leans heavily on endurance, wearing down Ukraine's defences, exhausting Western political will, and normalising its occupation of territory. The release of this footage plays into that broader strategy, reminding allies and adversaries alike that Russia intends to stay. As the sequence concludes, Gerasimov stands alongside commanders at a wide table, maps spread out before them. It is the final tableau, a symbol of control, resilience, and permanence. But it is also a reminder of how narratives in this war are crafted. The Russian Ministry of Defense does not release unfiltered reality. It releases what it wants the world to see. September 17th, 2025. Russia's top general is shown in muted images, his words unheard, his location uncertain, his presence impossible to verify. But in this war, perception is power. And these images, whether genuine or staged, serve the Kremlin's enduring goal: to project strength, to shape belief, and to sustain a narrative of control in a conflict far from resolution.
Управления. Товарищ начальник генерального штаба, личный состав.
В зоне специальной военной операции наступает практически на всех направлениях.